story. And this is really the most unlikely event I have ever been to. I am used to author events and things like that, so to have a putty event is really unusual, and I think it's probably unusual for most bookstores to do that. So thank you for coming today and for supporting the store, because it is only with your support that we are able to do this and to bring Aaron and great authors and all the activities that we do here. So I thank you very much. This is really important to us. I'm just going to run through a few housekeeping items. Obviously, you want to shut off your cell phones or put them on vibrate. The way that this will work is the same as our author event. So if you've been to our author events before, the way that we do this is Aaron will do his presentation. He has some fun things planned for you guys. And then he will sign putty tins after. And the way that we do that is we dismiss people from the front rows first because they were here the earliest and have waited the longest. And so when we dismiss you, you come to the center aisle and go down the center aisle, around the back, and Aaron is going to be sitting right here at this table. And then we will dismiss people in rows as we go down. It actually is faster than you think, but it moves pretty well. So I am now going to turn you over to Alexa Crow. Alexa is our amazing gift buyer. She is the one that brought Crazy Aaron Putty to the store, along with the latest and greatest gadgets and gizmos and spinners and all those wonderful things that are now current. And she was the one that was able to get Crazy Aaron, to come to the store. So, Alexa Crow.
All right, thanks, Deb. Hi, everyone. This is an exciting day, and let me tell you, I started talking to my friend Cheyenne at Crazy Aaron's Putty probably about a year ago to book Aaron. So we are so thrilled that he's here. So I'm just going to give a quick, brief update on Aaron. Aaron Muterick, commonly known as Crazy Aaron, started making putty in 1998. Quit his job in 2002 to go full-time into putty production. And since then, all the putty that's made is made right here in the USA in his factory outside of Philadelphia. He currently employs over 800 intellectually and physically challenged people who are his putty professionals. And, you know, that's a great tribute to a business created in the early 90s and going strong today, or late 90s and going strong today. So what I need you guys now, I think he's somewhere in here, I need you guys to yell out, Crazy Aaron, come on up. Crazy Aaron, come on up. Here he comes. Oh, he wants louder.
That time. That was good. That was better.
Excellent.
Hi, everybody. How are you? I think my microphone is working. Can you hear me with this? So I don't have to hold this, so that's good. So Alexa will have it. Well, thank you all so much for having me. I very rarely get to Massachusetts, so this is exciting. It's a beautiful day, a packed room. I see so many of you have putty tins that you're holding, that you're squeezing and stretching right now, which sort of gets back to how I got into putty in the first place. So let me tell you a story that's older than most of you who are under the age of 18. And that's how I grew up as a kid in Philadelphia, and I was really good at computers. And so everyone in school was like, you're so good at computers, you should go to college for computers, you should do computers. Silicon Valley is so cool. And so I went to school for computers, and I really liked it, and I was really good at it. And the other subjects were less interesting to me. I had a problem, which was if I was into what I was learning in school, I did it a million miles an hour. And if I wasn't into it that morning, that day, that week, or ever, I was not interested. So all my other classes were a lot less interesting than my computer classes. And I loved doing one thing and then jumping over and doing another thing and then 2 minutes later doing something else. kind of like a kid, right? And then I graduated and I got a job. And I got a job doing computers. And they sat down at my desk and they were like, great, what you need to do now is sit at this desk and sit still for 8 hours and not move around and just do what we tell you. And if you wake up and really bored at work, you guys know, sometimes you're in class and you're so bored, you're watching the minutes tick by on the clock and the side wall, just waiting for it to be over. And so I started collecting all these different desk toys. All these different toys to keep me occupied. When I was uploading a file or downloading a bunch of code to work on or whatever it was. And so I had the drinking bird. Everyone remember you have the drinking bird. And I had a slinky. And I had all kinds of little fidget things before fidget was a thing. Right? And then I had this little ball putty that I got at the store. And I opened it up and I was like, oh, I remember this from when I was a kid. I'm so excited to have this. And then I realized it was like this big. And my hands had grown a lot. Some of you still have smaller hands, so that size works for you. But when you get to be my size, that little bit's no good. You want more. So I bought a whole bunch of them and I glommed them all together into a big ball. And every day I would play with it. And then I started noticing after about a week that piece kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I could not figure out why. I was thinking to myself, well, is it evaporating? Maybe it has water in it, but it's not getting any harder. And maybe I left it on the desk and some of it poured out onto the floor. But I checked and it wasn't there. And then I looked around me one day when it was really quiet in the office. And I realized that every time I went to lunch, somebody would sneak over to my desk and tear off a little piece and smuggle it back to their cubicle and play with it for themselves. I said, there's something going on here. This is interesting. I know, I want more. My piece got smaller. I'm gonna call the people that make this stuff and I'm gonna say, hi, my name is Aaron and I would like to buy 100 pounds. And then they hung up the phone. And then I called back. And after 2 or 3 tries, I got someone who reluctantly was willing to tell me a ridiculously high price for 100 pounds. I call that the, if you're willing to pay that, then we're willing to do it. And so what I did is I went around to all of my coworkers and I said to them, hey, I want to buy 100 pounds. Are you in for 2 pounds? 2 pounds? 2 pounds? 3 pounds? Can I get you for 3? How about 5 for you? 1 for you? Only 1 today? You sure you want to go to 2? 2 it is. And then all of a sudden 100 pounds was sold. So I wrote my check and I sent off my money and 100 pounds came and everybody at work went crazy. All of these people in their 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s were like kids all over again. And for some reason that I'll never understand, all of our bosses, they let it happen. Because there was no work happening that day at all. 100 pounds of putty on a conference room table, being broken up with knives, all of these expensive consultants standing around billing no hours. You'll understand when you get older. But it started something. And it started in my mind saying, okay, this is cool, but I always want more. Now I got the 100 pounds, which was my original more. Now I want the next thing, which is I want it to be cooler. I want it to be better. And I started imagining all the different cool things that putty could do. But it didn't exist anywhere in the world. So one of the things, Alexa's got the camera here. I'm going to let her turn that on. So I love nature. How many of you love nature? You go outside, right? You walk around a tree, and if you look closely enough, you'll see a bug you've never seen before. Or you'll see some kind of rock that has a coloration to it that you've never seen before. So I love nature, and what I started to think was, how can I take all these things I see in the world and love and put them in this other thing that I love, which is putty, right? So, for example, I wanted putty that was shiny, like this mica, this rock here where you can peel off these little chunks and they're all shiny and sparkly. So I figured out how to make putty better. First I started making it shiny. Then I wanted to make it glow in the dark. I knew that they had these old watches that would glow in the dark back in the olden times. The only problem with them, can you hear that? Was that they're radioactive, like this one here. And I don't know if you know this, but it's actually against the law to give children radioactive toys. So I had to go back to the drawing board. I had to learn chemistry. I had to understand how to make things. One of the magical parts of the universe is that many times there's an effect or something, and there's more than one way to make it happen. One of them is radioactive. One of them is not. But you have to figure out what that is. And then you can make putty that really glows in the dark. So, for example, like that. And then you can say, well, it's nice that it glows for a minute, but can I make it glow for an hour? Can I make it glow for 12 hours? Can I make it glow all night long so it could be used as a nightlight if you left it open next to your bed? These are all the different ideas that go through my mind. So then we had another putty that was inspired by this rock. This rock is from Greenland, and you can see maybe that it has these hidden colors in it. So the phantom putties, who has a phantom putty here? Some of you, right, where you draw them with the light. This is the rare rock that inspired the phantom putty. And then liquid, or then the magnetic. Look, here's the magnetic one. Right? Who doesn't love magnets as a kid? I had all these magnets, and they stick together, and they're fascinating, and they repel each other, and they attract each other. But what if you made it into a putty? And how could you do that? That was 100 more phone calls where they hung up on me. And they said, who's crazy Aaron, and why is he calling me? Until finally, we were able to make some magic happen together and invent magnetic thinking putty. So what I learned is that I couldn't have somebody make this stuff for me. I needed to make it myself because I was the only one who was passionate enough about my idea to actually make it happen. Every time you hit a roadblock, every time it seems like it's impossible, every time it seems like you can't go forward, only your passion is going to help you to push through. When you are really, really into something, nobody else is going to be as into it as you are. And so I ended up building my putty factory, where we actually make all the putty from scratch and we mix all the magic stuff together. I made the liquid glass. This took a long time, but you can see there's a nice chunk of it. What was the inspiration for liquid glass, you might ask? A glass. That's not that. It's clear, you can see through it. That was it. And then what we decided when we were starting to build the factory, and it was getting so big that we couldn't do it all ourselves anymore, my wife and myself, and then we couldn't just hire the neighborhood kids to come over after school and put putty tins together. We needed a team. And the way we built our team was we went to find individuals with intellectual and physical disabilities who were having so much trouble finding work. Because so much of the work that was happening in manufacturing in the United States was at that time in 2000, 2001, 2002, heading overseas. And so they were left with not a lot to do. And at the same time, we appeared with a product that's pretty and fun to use and really lends itself to kind of hand labor of cutting and sorting and stickering and assembling. And so we were able to, with practice, build that team and then build a really loyal team that sticks around and is interested, is as passionate as I am in making awesome product that is super cool and will be here today and tomorrow and the day after. So, with that said, what I would love to do is maybe open up to some questions. I'm sure you guys have some. And I guess Alexa's going to walk around with the microphone if you want to raise your hand if you have a question, and I'm happy to answer them.
What do you put in your putty to make it glow in the dark?
What do you put in the putty to make it glow in the dark? Okay, I'm going to give you the scientific answer because you look like you are ready for it. So you know how if you have a wire, and you've experimented with electricity maybe at some point, and the electricity goes through, the electrons push through the wire and they go right through to the other end. And when you turn the power off, it's done, right? That would be like a regular light bulb. Well, what you can do is you can make a crystal, and that crystal is like a maze inside. And the electrons get pushed in, but they can't find their way out. And so when the light is on them, they're getting stuffed in there. And then when the light turns off, they can't find their way out instantly. It takes them hours to kind of wiggle their way out of all these little cracks and crevices. And every time one kind of finds its way, it releases a photon in the right color that you see light, green or orange or blue or whatever. And that's how glow-in-the-dark stuff works. Good answer? Yeah. Go ahead, Caroline.
How long does it take you to make one can of big putty? Like the big ones?
That is a good question. So to make the putty in the factory is probably about a 6-hour process. And that is a lot of special mixing and heating and cooling and stirring to get it just right. I always tell people it's not hard to make putty. And you guys go to the toy store, there's all kinds of slimes and goos and putties, but it's hard to make thinking putty. It's hard to make it just the way I like it, to make it just right. And that's what we do. And then once it's mixed in a giant blob, like a gigantic blob, once that's done, then it has to be cut up, so it has to cool off, let it sit overnight, and then they can put it together into the tins the next day. So I would say it takes maybe like almost 2 days to kind of go from the beginning until the end. It's a pretty complicated process.
What's your favorite putty?
My favorite is the Super Oil Slick, and I'll tell you why. It's not the fanciest putty, like the Phantoms that change color, or the Magnetics, which I'm very proud of, but it's really, really pretty. It's really, really shiny. You can almost see your reflection in it if you hold it up. And it was really, really hard to make. And my favorite putty are always the one where I had months and months of frustration and doubt, and is it going to work? And it's never going to work, and then all of a sudden it finally works. And that's the most exciting. What's that? That's the Super Oil Slick color. Yes, Alexa?
So what ingredients do you use to make it?
Okay, so putty is primarily what we call a silicone rubber. And a silicone rubber is like something similar to, you know, those wristbands that you have, the stretchy wristbands, or sometimes you have silicone phone cases. Silicone loves silicone, so maybe you've noticed sometimes that your putty will stick to certain rubbers a lot. And those are because those are also silicone. And then there's a zillion secret ingredients, I can't tell you that. But they're awesome. They're all awesome.
How much putty do you make in a year?
I can't tell you that because it is sort of a secret in business, but what I can tell you is that if I go out to our factory, which I do often, and I walk out on there, I would see about 50,000 pounds of putty kind of in one stage of production or another, either being made or finishing or getting ready to be turned into tins or shipping out the door. That's a lot of putty. That is like, yeah, like think of like a gigantic tractor trailer. It's more than that.
Why did you make the flashlight?
How did I make the flashlight? Or why? I couldn't hear.
How?
How? Well, that's an interesting question. First, I knew about this rock that would change color in sunlight. So when you would go up on the glacier in Greenland and you would find a piece of exposed rock and you would crack it open, and it hadn't been open to the sun in 4 billion years. And the second you cracked it open and the sunlight hit it, it would turn like magenta, kind of red color. And so that was the inspiration for figuring out how we could make putty change color. And then I got to learn all about the different wavelengths of light and what are the ones that have enough energy to cause, say, a chemical change for something to go from one color to another. And then once I figured out the kind of light I needed, then I worked to find a kind of light that could create that. And then, of course, going through a whole rigorous process of making sure that it's safe for kids and all those things like that. Creating a product, sometimes you kind of make it work, but that's only like the first step. That you have to then do all these other things to actually be able to sell it to people so that they will not only be able to buy it and it will be safe, but that they'll understand what they're getting. So that's part of how we created the light.
Why is it called thinking putty?
It's called thinking putty because when I was sitting at that desk and I was super bored, I needed something to help me think so I didn't lose my job. And I found that playing with the putty kept my hands busy, kept my fidgeting under control so that I could do the work. So for you, for example, you might find if you have like a reading assignment or a math assignment, playing with the putty in one hand and doing your assignment with the other could actually make it easier. It kind of keeps your hands busy to free up more space in your brain.
Have you ever made putty smell?
There is a new putty called Love is in the Air that came out at Valentine's Day. She's holding it up right there, yeah. And it smells like, call it out, what does it smell like? Roses. Roses. Smells like fresh cut roses.
How do all these rocks have all these different effects? Like, how do they glow in the dark? How do they change color?
Sure. Well, you know, one of the things I think is the coolest is that the rocks don't know. They're just rocks. But that somehow, when this Earth was formed, that all these different things ended up happening. A little different thing here, a slightly different thing there, and it's only us kind of going out there with a hammer and banging on them to discover that they do things. And I guarantee you, I mean, you guys are growing up, you're going to grow up, you're going to go to school, some of you are going to become scientists. There's things that rocks do that nobody even knows yet that you're going to discover because you looked a little harder than the last person who looked at it. Yeah, whatever the timing is.
How do you make the colors?
So the way we make the different colors is a little complicated. Sometimes we change the formula of the putty itself, and sometimes it's just about different color components that get added in afterwards. And it all depends on the effect that we're going for. Does that answer your question? So sometimes when you make cookies, you can add food coloring. And sometimes if you add blue food coloring, it's not blue enough, so you'd have to be like a super chef and figure out why not. But sometimes it's blue enough, and that's good enough.
How do you make the putty shiny?
So one of the things that I learned from this rock, which is shiny, and I'll put it over here at the table, and you can pick at it and whatever. You can't actually break it. See how it breaks off, like just like that, like in flat sheets. And then as they get thinner and thinner, you can see through them. What I realized is you can make these microscopic mirrors so that when you look at them on the face, they're very reflective. And when you look at them on end, it's like looking down a pane of glass. It's very dark. And so by using lots of these microscopic mirrors in the putty, you can make it look like metal without actually having to use metal.
How do you get all these cans?
That's a good question. So our product is made in the United States, where we make our putty in Philadelphia, but we don't actually make the cans ourselves. So in business, so you kind of figure out what you're going to make, and then you need what are called suppliers. Those are people who are going to make the other things for you. So, for example, who makes the paper that goes into the label, right? And who makes the sticky stuff that goes on the back of the paper that turns into a label? Who makes the cans? So there's a company that's nearby that makes metal cans, and we were able to work with them and use these gigantic machines, and they take sheets of metal, and it's the coolest thing ever. They flow in, and then this big press goes wop 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 wop, and cans shoot out the other end. And the first time I went to visit that factory, I like to touch things. And there are guards to keep you from actually losing your arm with one of these giant machines that would suffer no damage at all if my arm was in the way. But I reached out to touch the can to pick it up after it came out, and I burned myself. Because the pressure of forming that metal into the shape of a can makes it probably 300 degrees. Just that force turned into heat, just like when you rub your hands together and they get really warm. And I was like, ah! And they were like, I told you not to touch anything. Can't help myself.
Okay, we have two more questions. One here from Zachary.
What was the first putty you ever made?
The first putty I ever made was really kind of a replica of Silly Putty, because Silly Putty is what I grew up with as a kid. And so for me, learning how to make it was first saying, okay, here's a thing that I know can exist. Can I make something just like it? And it was that kind of salmon-colored, very hard to make any other color kind of material. That was the first one. And then I started learning, well, what are all the things that are in it that make it so hard to make cool colors? And kind of going in reverse.
Okay, we're going to end with an adult question.
Oh, good.
Are there any features that you've been trying to make and you can't quite figure out yet, like something on your to-do list?
There are. Well, there's a whole list back at the factory of things I have figured out that are yet to be released. And then there's the list of the head scratchers that at this point, after almost 20 years, I haven't quite been able to make work. And I just keep at it and keep at it. It's amazing. Sometimes you just have to wait for your moment. Sometimes you have to wait for that thing you need that hasn't been invented yet to get invented, so that then you can say, aha, I've been waiting for that, and pull it off the shelf and use it. So there's a lot more to come. There's a lot more to come. thank you guys very much. So that ends question and answer, but it does not end the fun. We're going to move on to phase 3, which is fun, games and prizes, we'll call it, games and prizes. So, here comes the putty. Alexa's running down the hallway, she's turning the corner, she's grabbing the cart, she's pulling it back this way, color commentary, keeps it going. We're going to do what I call, this is something I've only done before at science museums, but you guys seem like a really fun crowd. We call it Putty Tug of War. And what I'm going to need is just a little bit of help here to maybe get this table out of the way. Because it is on wheels. So, right. There we go. Okay, now, I brought 3 special putties. Hold on, just wait, hands down. I brought 3 special putties from my factory. One is super hard, one is medium hard, and one is the kind that you actually play with. And here they are, 25-pound blocks. Now, I would like to get 2 child volunteers. Oh wait, you're all interested? What a surprise. You, yes? And sir, yes, with the red hair? Or the brownish hair that looks red in the light, you're looking the other way. Look at me, yes, you, sir. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to try not to hurt ourselves. Okay, now, I'm going to be the judge. You 2 are going to stand here in the middle of the stage. I am going to count to 10 in my head, because if I'll count out loud so that you know. I need to see who can pull their putty to their end. Their end being kind of like here, or like a foot away from that end, okay? And whoever does will be the winner. Are you ready? Tommy, step right over here. Meredith, grab this, okay? I'm going to hold it right in the middle. Ready, set, and if no one does it in 10 seconds, then we'll figure something out. Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. Pull, 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 pull. All right, Meredith is the winner. Now, that was the easy one. I'm going to need some teenage, maybe strong children. Okay, you can head down. Meredith, you're the winner. You want to just hang out right over here and we'll do prizes? Sir, you look pretty strong. And ma'am, yes, in the blue, yes. This is the medium putty. You can see it's a little more, holds its shape a little better. All right, James, Gabby, we're going to do the same thing. Let's see who can pull the putty. Ready? You might want to get a better grip on it than that. Really, really dig in with your whole hands, because this is hard. Ready? Go. Pull. Pull. Oh no! Gabby, I'm going to help you. Gabby, come on. Come on. Come on. It's a little harder. Oh, you got to get across with the putty. Don't let it touch the ground. Gabby's going in. Pull. Pull. It's slippery, isn't it? It's part of the trick. Part of the trick. Okay, I'm going to say you win. Okay, thank you very much. Now what I need are 2 strong adults. One of the things that children, don't be disappointed, you're going to get to watch grown-ups make fools of themselves. This is a great thing. Only a few are willing. In the back, yes, with the, yeah, you look back at me, yes, with the long hair, yes. Now, this one is real tricky. It's hard. It's slippery, but I wish you luck. Okay? Now, I'm going to change this game. I'm going to give you 60 seconds, and if both of you pull it across, you both win. All right? So just don't let it touch the ground. Get it the length of the stage. Ready? Go. And I suggest going slow. 1. Well, you have to actually stretch it together. You're a team on this one. There's no actual winning. You want to really get your hands on there. So you can see, we need some really powerful machines to mix this stuff. They can barely even move it. And if it came to you like this in the team, you wouldn't be having any fun. It would be like pet rock, right? Yeah, oh, now I think you're making some progress. You're almost there. Hold on, I'm gonna watch a show, and I'll be back. Right after these messages. Oh gosh, you know what? That was an A effort. You're both winners. Thank you very much. Woo. Yes, now I have the prize presentation. Come on down. James. Thank you. Tommy. Meredith. Lovely Meredith. Gabby. Winner. Thank you so much. Now, it is my understanding that we are going to pick the grand prize. Yeah. Do you know what this is? This is a 1 pound magnetic, I think magnetic gold brush thinking putty. I'm pretty sure. In a 1 pound tin, there's less than probably 100 of these on planet Earth that were made. We reserved one for an unlikely story. Ooh, you all want it. Now, when you came in, everyone got a ticket. And I'm going to give this a good shake. Because, you know, the people who came in last shouldn't have any advantage. And I'm going to close my eyes, and I'm going to look away, lest I choose someone I know. Who is 359982? Did you win? Come on down! Connor, you're not Lily. It says Lily Connor. Is that a new kind of, okay, here you go. Okay, that's your sister. You're covering for her. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I do have a runner-up. I've got a kit here. $360-135. 135. There you go. Winner, winner. Chicken dinner. This is the Mix by Me Putty Kit where you get to act like me and make your own colors. Here you go, sir. Now this one's Connor and Connor. This is suspicious. I think this is rigged. All right, thank you very much. I'm going to come over here. I'm happy to sign pins.
Great. Aaron, thank you so much. Who would have guessed that there could even be Putty this thing?
Right?
All right, guys, I'm going to have you stay seated for a second while Aaron gets a drink of water and gets over to his table. So when we start to line up, it's going to be these first 2 rows right here. If you guys want to stand up. And Robin, can you raise your hand back there? You're going to walk right down to Robin. And she's going to direct you right around the table. Oh, that's very fun. All right, you guys, next rows.
Watch out for this camera, okay?
That's it. Follow Robin. She's right at the end of the row.
Got it?